Let's bring in Jamil Jaffer, the former associate White House counsel to President George W. Bush and the founder and executive director at the National Security Institute. Jamil, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. I want to get to this perspective on Iran here. Remember, part of this is all trying to make sure that they cannot reconstitute that nuclear program. This was in the Wall Street Journal this week. Quote, Iran's move will leave the International Atomic Energy Agency blind for now to any renewed nuclear work that Tehran is able to do and unable to verify the whereabouts of its large stockpile of already enriched uranium. This is Iran suspending cooperation with the United Nations Atomic Energy Agency. How much of a stumbling block is that for the U.S. and Israeli efforts to try to make sure that Iran doesn't put that program back together?
Well, look, Rich, the reality is that Iran was never really adequately cooperating with the IAEA. Right before the Israeli and then U.S. strikes on Iran, the IAEA was about to say that Iran had failed to cooperate effectively. They didn't have good access to a lot of the sites they needed to. And so this idea that somehow they're cutting off of cooperation is a real problem here. The real problem here is just not true. The real problem here, Rich, fundamentally is Iran continues to try to enrich uranium to levels that are necessary for a nuclear weapon. They continue to try to work on weaponization, and they continue to build ballistic missiles that have the ability to deliver those weapons. And that's why it's so important what President Trump did, taking out their enrichment capabilities, taking out that metallization facility to Isfahan, where they can take uranium gas and turn it into weaponized material. So these are important steps. It set the Iranian regime back significantly. Now the question is, can we find a way forward where they don't have nuclear enrichment at home? That was the big mistake that President Obama made, giving the ability to enrich domestically.
Steve Witkoff, apparently, reportedly next week, is planning on meeting with the Iranian foreign minister to talk about all of this. Do you think that those U.S. strikes on the Iranian facilities have changed Iran's tone here, or will they still stick to their guns and try to, in any agreement, enrich uranium on their soil?
Well, look, the problem is that they think they have approval from the United States because of the deal that we did back in 2014 to conduct domestic enrichment locally inside the country. That's not something we've even allowed our closest allies, the Emiratis, in the region to do. And yet here we are allowing Iran to do that. That's the fundamental problem. President Trump, I think, has made pretty clear we're not going to let you get to a nuclear weapon. You can't have domestic enrichment. But to be fair, the administration has gone back and forth. Witkoff even at one point said, well, maybe they can enrich some domestically. That has to be a red line at this point, and hopefully the strikes made that clear.
Have the Iranians changed their tune at all? Has this changed the Iranian regime, or is this the same group, same goals?
Look, it's the same vicious group. They terrorize their people. They terrorize Americans. They support terrorist groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. And yet, with these strikes, maybe they feel the pressure and the need to come back, knowing that they're now open to be struck again if they continue to do this. So we'll see what happens. But again, it's what Ronald Reagan said. You got to trust but verify if you're going to do a deal with these guys.
All right, Jamil Jaffer, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
Claudia?